through joint effort of Raila Odinga and the former President Kibaki. Some of these people sitting in IEBC were proposed by Raila Odinga himself. So it does not make sense for you as Raila Odinga, you shepherd a certain process. When that person assumes office, you want that person to do that which you want. When he makes a certain decision which is independent and objective and as per the law, you start castigating that person. It shows that you don't respect institutions, you're not a worthy leader of this country. So, as to his point, he was saying that Kenyans don't want IEBC. I'm not aware of any poll that has been conducted in this country that shows scientifically Kenyans are not happy with IEBC. We do not have such kind of a poll. We don't have anything to conclude that indeed the IEBC cannot be able to discharge its functions. This is speculations, and that is why I always say these civil societies, guys like my friend here, Akina Gevongo, these are called people. They masquerade. They masquerade as independent guys there, giving expert opinion on behalf of Kenyans. But indeed, surely, by the way, this constitution was championed by the civil society. They are the one who has said, hey, we vote it. They were in the forefront voting yes. Right. How can Gevongo, in his right mind, then propose amendment? Even 5 years have not even lapsed. Right. And the same guys who are fighting for this constitution. By the way, majority of us were in Jubilee, by the way, we were in the other camp. So but now, so this guy here is a court guy masquerading as an expert. You don't go, a court guy masquerading.
As we await the discussion on disbandment, on whether or not, we're even going to see another debate on whether we should disband the IEBC, there is talk as well that the PSC has suggested, there is the Public Accounts Committee is asking for a lifestyle audit on the wealth of all the commissioners, including the chair, Isaac Hassan, regarding the 2013 BVR kids. Is it necessary?
Of course it's necessary, but just for records, I wish for Honorable Kangata to know that I'm not a member of CORD, nor am I a member of civil society. So I'm not a member of those two institutions. Well, but again, if I was a member of CORD or civil society, I would still be very proud. I will not run away from pointing mischief taking place in the public sector, especially when it affects my well-being. Being a taxpayer, you work very hard to pay taxes, and you must hold the public institutions accountable. But now going back to your very germane question about doing a lifestyle audit, for me that's a waste of time. Because majority of the public servants in Kenya, wherever they seek to go and steal from the public coffers, they've got their design well-intentioned. So it's not as if they're going to steal and keep all the money in their bank account. They'll know how to use it. Instead, what we need to do is to start respecting institutions, that when you're given that rare privilege to serve, like in IEBC, you should be loyal to Wanjiku, you should be loyal to the voter. You shouldn't use your position as a factor of production. And say that I'm in this office, what's the budget for IEBC and how much money am I going to make out of it? And if media reports are anything to go by, and the media in Kenya is largely owned by the two, by CORD and Jubilee, is principal owns one of the biggest media houses in Kenya. And even if you go to cab drivers, you speak to Mama Mboga, and you mention the name IEBC, most of the time they're going to roll their eye. So it's actually logic upside down for Irungu Kangati to ask whether the sun rises from the east. It's very clear from the parliamentary accounts, the committee, where is the member he sits, he has the opportunity to interrogate those documents. He knows that these guys have stolen. And in the unlikely event that is not socialized with those documents, there is a chicken gate. There are another independent jurisdiction has already jailed people for associating with IEBC and for giving out the bribes. And IEBC is supposed to be like Caesar's wife beyond reproach. Any moment people cast aspersions on your integrity, on your ability to deliver, and as Honorable Kaluma has indicated, this is not your piece of land. You do not own a title to IEBC. It's a revolving door. Why can't you go? What is stopping these commissioners from resigning? Because you recall at 2007, part of the reason why we got into trouble is because people did not have faith in the IEBC then. So for me, I don't see any reason as to why the current commissioners would be doing media conferences and saying that if you guys you don't like us, we are going to take a walk Why can't they take a walk and then give us the opportunity to reconstitute IEBC afresh to reflect the will of people? However, Irungu makes some valid points that a number of our political leaders, when they're constituting these public bodies, they want to plant their own people. They want to plant their systems to ensure that they get continuous information. For instance, one of the things that Isaac Hassan is being accused of, that he unilaterally appointed lawyers to represent IEBC during the petition, that is a lapse in judgment. And so it means that when he's put in a corner, he can respond to instructions from a particular, from a particular circle. And if our MPs are not very careful, and Kriegler indicated that what happened in 2007 is going to be a dress rehearsal for what is going to happen next year. So for me, I'm not interested to know who sits in that office, whether it's a Jubilee supporter, whether it's a court supporter, provided they remain honest to their calling. That if you are the chairman of IEBC, you're going to be the returning officer. You're the one who's going to pronounce who's going to be president. Are you going to be loyal to Wanjiku? The many people will wake up in the morning to go and queue. Is the vote going to count, or what is going to count is instructions from another quarter? And it's important for Irungu, again, not speaking on behalf of civil society, he's actually a member of civil society before he went to the National Assembly. You remember Justice Baraza. He's the one who took Justice Baraza home over what then and now people consider to be a very flimsy reason. So if somebody goes home merely by pinching somebody's nose, or maybe it's an allegation, why can't you go home when you've stolen, when there is a chicken gate?
All right, and now let's talk, let's now shift our attention to the fact that we have just a few months to the 2017 elections, and I'm sure if you can tell, the political momentum is picking up, and I guess CORD has set that pace quite very well, with what's going on at the moment. But let's talk about the road to 2017. At the moment, what we're looking at is we're only seeing the preparations, or what we can define as or describe as preparations for what we might see in 2017, with all these accusations that, the IEBC is not going to be able to hold a free and fair election, and also the fact that we are seeing some sects saying, there are some sections that have come out and said, it's actually a mistake for African countries to have elections for 5 years, every 5 years, because we clearly know in the 5 years, nothing is going to be done. And they are proposing that maybe we should have a look at elections, or at least an election term run for 10 years. And then after 10 years, it's clear you're going to be out of the system. And then we have fresh people coming in to lead different positions, including the presidential position. But do you think that is a thought that Kenya should look into, Honorable Kaluma?
Yes, the African background was that if you are the king of a tribe, you are the king until you die. Unfortunately, that is the thinking that you see in the mind of most of the African, prime ministers and presidents. You see what is happening in Burundi, what you are seeing in what is happening in Rwanda, and you see what is happening across in Uganda. You see some misguided mind thinking the nation cannot be there without him, and therefore terms have to be extended. I tend to agree with what I saw President Obama tell, the African leaders in Addis Ababa the last time he was around. But really, there is no this magic or miracle, you're the only one who has solved the country. Nurture other leaders, give them space to lead, never tend to think that it is you and only you. So really, Africa has developed. Even at the level of Kenya, we have so many people. The 5-year term, if you are an organized leader with a vision in terms of where you want to take your society, I mean, you can take the society so far. And this is why, as CORD, we are saying, we are not extending the term of this parliament and government to December next year, because we have a beautiful constitution. A constitution that sets out the path the country should follow in terms of the integrity of the nation, in terms of inclusivity. We are the I think the only country in the world with a whole chapter in the constitution about national values and principles, which include accountability, integrity, and others. What do you have from the current government? Is corruption everywhere, including to an extent where a child born today beginning to go to school is asking you the meaning of this difficult word called corruption. I mean, it is all facets.
Right.
Every tendering is about how do we up the money to eat. Look at the level of exclusion. You have a constitution talking about inclusivity. You have a constitution saying the president shall be the symbol of unity of the nation. You shall not violate the constitution. You shall integrate all. I mean, look at the public appointments you have. The central Kenya and the Nandi part of the country, other Kenyans are paying taxes and it ends there. It is not for them. You have resources going to over 2.1 trillion in a budget in a year. But you cannot finger point a single coin going into Aholo Bay County and you think you're running a country. So what I'm saying is that we need these periodic elections and we need them at an interval of 5 or less so that we can constantly evaluate and really reset the map when a leadership is going wayward in good time. We are facing it on 8th of August. Let the people of Kenya come out and make their date with destiny. All right.
Honorable Kangata, I would like to hear your thoughts on this. Because what we're looking at is that, let's take an example of President Uhuru Kenyatta at the moment. You know, from the time he took office, he was dealing with a new system of governance, you know, having to implement devolution and having to, you know, have all these elective positions. And then for them to have to settle in, that actually took a turnaround time of about 3 years. And now we have about 7 months to the elections yet again, or maybe 7 months to about, 2017 before we can now start seeing, campaigns getting into full gear. So some sects of thought or some schools of thought think if 10 years is enough time, then they have 3 years to get around whatever it is that they want to get around and 8 years to serve the nation. That way we have more transformation and democracy being exercised. Is that a thought that we should consider?
No. First and foremost, my knowledge of the African history and African anthropology is that there is nothing African with kingships and longevity of a leader.
Yes.
In fact, very few African societies had kingdoms. In my Kikuyu heritage, we never used to have a king. So therefore, this argument that Africans are somehow connected with that notion of leaders staying for long is something to me erroneous. Africans have tended probably to be quite democratic. A vast majority of Africans were being ruled by everyone, by the way. The only probably issue you could accuse Africans then is the issue to do with affirmative action, which even the so-called developed societies were still grappling with that issue. So as to the issue of spreading of power, the issue of a leader staying for long in leadership, to me is something that is very new, it's novel amongst African. That's number one. Number two, the example that you have given of Uhuru Kenyatta is very peculiar to the Kenyan situation because very few African countries have changed their constitutions. So it's only that Kenya, we changed our constitution, and because of that, our president was going in some form of transition. So you cannot take one case example and you make it universal. It is true, as you have said, indeed, the Jubilee government has suffered a lot in terms of we expected to deliver certain results. We are still enacting or establishing a new constitution. That